Hi guys, welcome back. My name's Anna. I am a clinical psychology doctoral intern, and today we're going to be talking about how to heal your nervous system. What I'm specifically talking about in this video is increasing parasympathetic nervous system responses, decreasing sympathetic nervous responses, overall just getting out of survival mode, out of fight or flight, and into more of a rest and digest space. And this is particularly important for people who have anxiety disorders who live in that survival mode, as well as people with trauma responses who experience anxiety as a result of their trauma history. First of all, let's just establish what we're talking about when we talk about these different branches of the nervous system, and then we're going to go into how to actually balance your nervous system. So the nervous system is comprised of the central nervous system, which includes your spinal cord, your brain, and your brainstem, and the peripheral nervous system, which is split into the autonomic nervous system, which is so-called involuntary functions like blinking, breathing, things like that, and voluntary nervous system, which is like voluntary muscle movements. The autonomic nervous system is split again into two more things: the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. The parasympathetic, like I mentioned, is when you rest and digest. It's when you're in the state of calm, relaxation, your body is functioning without you having to do much. And the sympathetic nervous system is where fight or flight is found. It's when you are experiencing a threat, some sort of imminent danger to yourself, whether it be a bear coming at you or someone screaming at you, and your body experiences a state of arousal, meaning your heart rate is up, your blood pressure is up, you get kind of tunnel vision because you're trying to focus on one thing, which is surviving. Now, trauma and anxiety, and whether it's anxiety caused by trauma or anxiety that's separate, they tend to cause the sympathetic nervous system to go in overdrive. You will find yourself being in fight or flight a lot of the time, even when there isn't an imminent danger, because you're just kind of perceiving it everywhere. You can think of it kind of like a smoke detector. If the sympathetic nervous system is a smoke detector, then somebody who is in a very high stress environment or has an anxiety disorder or has been previously traumatized is going to have a smoke detector that goes off very, very sensitively at every little thing. Whether you're just cooking your dinner in a skillet, smoke detector goes off, you're in fight or flight, and that's not good for you. Just like a smoke detector that's constantly going off, it's very stressful, it's very upsetting. Your body is not resting and digesting. Your body's not taking care of itself properly because it's constantly thinking very, very short term. How do I get away from this one imminent threat? As opposed to how do I focus on well-being across the lifespan. Being in survival mode for too long has been associated with a lot of negative health outcomes, such as autoimmune disorders where the body starts to attack itself, negative cardiovascular health outcomes, because if your heart and blood pressure are elevated for extended periods of time, it's going to take a toll on the body. Inflammation, which can be a risk factor for cancer and other such things. So it's very important to not be in fight or flight very frequently. And that can be scary to hear if you are in fight or flight frequently. In fact, the reason I looked into this topic in the first place and wanted to learn as much about it as possible is because I found out from my Apple Watch that my heart rate variability, which is a measure that is supposed to be as high as possible and is associated with positive health outcomes, my HRV was very, very low. And if you look it up online, what that means, it's like predisposes you to catastrophic illness. And HRV tends to be a measure of how in balance your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are. For instance, when you take a deep breath, inhaling is supposed to increase the speed of your heart rate, exhaling is supposed to decrease it. If that doesn't happen, if you're taking a deep breath and your heart rate is not decreasing as a result of that, then that could be a sign that your sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive and it's not in balance with your parasympathetic nervous system. If you have an Apple Watch, please let me know if your HRV is also very low, because everyone I've asked about this has a super low number. So to go a little bit deeper into the difference between anxiety and trauma. Anxiety is when you are trying to prevent terrible things from happening in the future, and trauma is when you're doing the same thing, but usually because something terrible has happened in the past. There are a lot of questions out there about where emotions start. Do they start with the cognitive piece where you have a thought like, oh no, there's going to be an earthquake? Or does it start with the body piece, the physiological response of arousal? Does it start with just this subjective, ethereal sense of emotion that isn't attached necessarily to a physiological reaction or to a thought. There are going to be a lot of people out there that tell you they have the answer. There are a lot of people that say this is the thing that emotions start with. And honestly, I don't think that it's that simple. I've known a lot of people for whom, for instance, their anxiety disorders were purely cognitive. They didn't really feel a lot of physiological arousal symptoms. They just had these thoughts that were constantly preoccupying them. I've also known a lot of people for whom anxiety was very physiological, where it was clear that their nervous system had gone haywire, and it wasn't so much their thoughts, or maybe their thoughts were a product of the nervous system reactions they were having. So I've made videos in the past focusing more on the cognitive piece, and this video is really honing in on the physiological piece. What do you do if you feel like for you, stress or anxiety or trauma starts in the body, or if these things that you're experiencing are just associated with a lot of physiological symptoms? How can you focus on those physiological symptoms head on? Now, this is called a bottom-up approach, where you're starting with the body and moving into the mind later. Whereas a top-down approach would be more like talk therapy, where you are talking about things from the past, things from the future, things in the present, rather than attacking the physical body symptoms. I think that both are important. But the bottom-up approach involves more of movement, breath work, and touch. Now, the vagus nerve is important to this discussion. The vagus nerve is this branch of the parasympathetic nervous system that controls things like digestion, heart rate, your immune system, and so forth. And polyvagal theory is really big in psychology these days and in medicine. It focuses on the different branches of the vagus nerve and how they work to induce different stages of relaxation. So per polyvagal theory, there are 3 ways of being. One is where you're socially engaged, you're feeling emotions like peace, love, joy, things of that sort. Like when you are watching TV with a loved one that you just feel really comfortable with. The second one is fight or flight. That's a lot of what we'll be talking about in this video, which is when your sympathetic nervous system is going in at it, you're in survival mode, you are in a state of physiological arousal. The third one is freeze or collapse. So when we talk about fight, flight, or freeze is kind of separate per polyvagal theory. It is a form of responding to an imminent danger, but it's almost like you're shutting down. Instead of fleeing or fighting, you're dissociating, or you're freezing, or you're trying to conserve your energy as much as possible. It's like when animals play dead in front of a predator. So when we talk about keeping the nervous system healthy, there are, of course, everyday habits that are typically recommended to people that just kind of like a baseline for what we should be doing to look after our bodies. So this is things like getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. You know, that's important for the rest and digest piece. Exercising at least 30 minutes per day. Preferably something involving breathing, like yoga, or it could be something like strength training, where you're being aware of where your body is in space and how it responds to different objects, or cardio for cardiovascular health, things like running. Time in nature is also really important as well. Natural light exposure, being around green spaces, being around water, all of these have been shown to help the physical and mental health. There's something called forest bathing or forest therapy that originates from Japan, which has been shown to have very beneficial outcomes. So things like walking outside, hiking, swimming, sailing, anything that's outdoors is wonderful for your nervous system. Nutrition is important. Eating nutritionally dense foods, things like fruits, vegetables, protein, healthy fats. Probiotics are an important piece of nutrition too, because probiotics target gut health, and the gut is called the second brain because that is where most of our serotonin originates from. Serotonin, as you may know, is involved in happy mood. That's why selective serotonin uptake inhibitors, SSRIs, are the common antidepressants prescribed. And so eating things that have probiotics, whether it's kimchi, kombucha, yogurt, sauerkraut, or even just taking a probiotic pill, can be helpful for the gut microbiome and then helping with that rest and digest piece, as well as just boosting mood. And minimizing substance use is also important. So in the US, the recommendations are no more than 1 drink per day for women, no more than 7 throughout the week, and for men, it's like no more than 2 drinks per day, no more than 10 per week. I will say this kind of depends country to country. So if you go to like Italy or Spain, they're gonna laugh in your face. They're gonna say that's not realistic, that's not necessary. It's totally fine to drink a little bit more, but as we know, culture impacts medical norms as well. So I'm just telling you what the norms are in the US because they are a little bit more on the conservative side. But that's just like setting a baseline for keeping a healthy body, healthy nervous system. what are some actual techniques or things you can do to heal your nervous system, to get out of fight or flight, back into rest and digest, to not be constantly in survival mode and setting yourself up for health issues? Grounding yourself through touch is really important. So this can include things like massage therapy, acupuncture, receiving touch affection from loved people in your life, having a weighted blanket, doing something like jade rolling, also called gua sha. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I forgot to look it up before this video. And something called emotional freedom technique or tapping. So let's go through each of these. Massage therapy, of course, uses touch to help you feel safe, to help you relax, release tension in your muscles. Of course, getting it professionally on a regular basis is extremely expensive. So if you have someone in your life that can provide this for you, that's wonderful. Acupuncture, another one of those things that pretty expensive to do regularly, but it can be helpful for things like stress, anxiety, and PTSD. We have some research to say that it could potentially help certain issues. Of course, it is one of these more alternative medicines because in Eastern cultures, there really is much more of a focus on healing the body because the mind and body are seen as inseparable. Whereas in the West, anything that involves targeting the body directly is seen as weird or kind of on the fringes because we're supposed to think that everything needs to be cured within the mind, that the mind and the body are sort of splintered from each other. Like I said, having physical touch from a safe loved one can be really helpful. Animals out in the wild, when they're scared, they cling to each other. That's the most natural thing in the world for soothing your physiological responses. And actually, the mind doesn't really distinguish between a real hug and an imagined hug. So if you can just imagine a hug from a loved one that you care about for 30 seconds, or even from an animal, if a loved one who's a human is a little bit too ambitious of a goal for you, if you can imagine just holding your dog or petting your cat for 30 seconds, your brain registers that as real and you reap the benefits of it. Weighted blankets can be helpful because they make you feel safer and calmer. They incapacitate you a little, so you have to sit still, you have to relax. It's the sense of pressure similar to massage therapy, leaning on those muscles and allowing them to just relax for a little bit. Jade rolling or gua sha is another one of these practices that originates from Eastern cultures where you're basically putting a crystal, a jade, across your face. This has been branded as helping with lymphatic drainage, with puffiness, as well as anti-aging. What we know for sure is that it can have a lot of benefits if you find it to be a form of self-care. It can be very grounding. You know, I've had coworkers in the past who talked about their clients having like a crystal to hold as just a grounding object in difficult moments. So at the very least, there's that aspect if you don't necessarily believe in the other health benefits of it. But there is also some early research to suggest it could be helpful for the nervous system as well. Especially if you put it in the fridge overnight, you use it in the morning, it can help cool down your body a little bit and make you feel like, okay, I'm waking up, like we're doing it, almost like a cleansing cold shower. EFT or tapping. Tapping is also called emotional freedom technique. It is similar to acupuncture in that you're targeting certain acupressure points with the hopes of stimulating your parasympathetic response and decreasing the sympathetic response. So you're tapping places like here, 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 all around your body to bring you back into the present moment, help ground you a little bit, help calm down your nervous system. Again, very preliminary. We don't know exactly what the research is, but some people find it very helpful anecdotally. What about ways to ground yourself through movement and breath work? And I put these together because it's really important to combine movement and breath work. I used to do a lot of workouts where I wasn't focusing on breath work at all. And once I started to very intentionally inhale and exhale during my workouts, I really noticed a difference. I just felt a lot lighter. Like I had trained my body to regularly breathe. Like, you know, you can do breathing for like a few moments or a few minutes. It's not quite the same as doing it nonstop for like 30, 40 minutes. That really forces you to just release the tension from your body and just feel so much lighter. But anyway, grounding through movement and breath work, things like stretching are really great. So I have been starting to stretch in between my clients at work, and I have found it so helpful for grounding myself, for releasing tension, for having just a little moment of self-care in between my busy workday. It can increase your bodily awareness, like your sense of where body is in space, and also release that tension, like I mentioned. Then there are things like yoga, which we know from countless studies are helpful for stress, anxiety, trauma, depression. It combines stress relief with relaxation, with breath work, with mindfulness, and combines that mind-body wellness. And of course, we have the very diluted Western version of yoga, but in its original form, it really was intended to be more of the mind-body focus, not just a workout. Then there's Qigong, which has been used to energize the mind and body, and it improves your well-being, and it also focuses on breath work. For instance, there's one exercise where you inhale as you lift your hands up, and then you exhale as you push them down. Really simple thing you can do. I've also been doing this along with my stretching in between clients. There's Tai Chi, which is defense training, so it can help if you have a trauma history for knowing how to defend yourself while also combining meditation, health benefits, breath work. Strength training can also make you feel stronger if you have been through a traumatic past, as well as just helping you be more aware of where your body is in space. Like I mentioned, cardio. It lowers your resting heart rate, which is good because then your heart doesn't race quite as much when you're in fight or flight, and it improves your nervous system functioning. There's one skill from DBT that I think really targets the nervous system, although it's not advertised as such, and it's called TIP, T-I-P-P. The T stands for temperature, and this is when you put your face in a bowl of ice water, or you take a cold shower, a cold bath, an ice plunge like people have been doing recently. Because what it does is it activates something called the diving response, which is when you dive underwater, usually in a cold body of water, your heart rate decreases, your blood pressure decreases. It's trying to conserve energy so that you don't drown faster, so that you don't die of hypothermia. And what we've found out recently is that if you take a cold shower, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which, if you may recall, that helps with parasympathetic functioning, decreasing fight or flight. So this is actually something that I recommend to clients, which is when you're feeling overwhelmed, especially very activating, high arousal emotion, put your face in a bowl of ice water or take a cold shower. And it's something that I've also been doing recently, is taking cold showers. It started out partly because it's just been so hot recently, but what I started to realize was that I did feel a lot more relaxed and refreshed and light afterwards, and I did start to miss it anytime I took a hot bath after that. It kind of forces your mind to stop for a minute because your body's in shock. It's having this cold water pour on you. There's no time to think about anything. Your mind is blank for the very first time and probably ever. And if you remember to breathe and push through it, you can also build resilience and realize that you can withstand painful things. Painful experiences are just a part of life. You can breathe through them and actually come out of it even better than before. So that's what the T stands for, and TIP is temperature. The I stands for intense exercise, which we've kind of been touching on, but I usually suggest to clients, again, when you're feeling very overwhelmed, very physiologically aroused, do a workout of something that you can't do for more than 60 seconds, whatever that is for you. It could be sprinting, high knees, jumping jacks, burpees, something that if you do for more than 60 seconds, you're just like out of breath and you just have to stop. Because again, releases some of that energy, it decreases your overall cortisol levels afterwards, and it also clears your head. Then the first P from TIP stands for progressive muscle relaxation. This is a technique where you tense up every muscle group for about 5 seconds as you inhale, and then you release as you exhale. So you start with your feet, move up to your legs, thighs, butt cheeks, abs, hands, arms, shoulders, face, neck, all of that. And then at the end, you do it with all of the body parts together. So you clench for 5 seconds and then you release. Progressive muscle relaxation would not be helpful if it was just, oh, try to relax your muscles. That's not how it works. You can't just relax on command. You have to first tense up in order to then relax. And then the last P from TIP stands for paired breathing. Pairing it with progressive muscle relaxation, or sometimes I also like to call it paced breathing. Now this is important. So we know that when you breathe, ideally if you have a good HRV, as you exhale, it triggers your parasympathetic response, right? However, a lot of people report that when they do breathing exercises, they actually feel more anxious during them, and I used to be one of those people. A lot of people will try breathing exercises a few times, find it doesn't help, and just sort of give up or say it's not for me. Two things come to mind. Sometimes when you're not doing it properly, you're actually forcing yourself to breathe more shallow rather than deep. What this means is that you're breathing from your chest. You're breathing If you put your hand on your chest and one on your lower belly, you'll find that if you're breathing shallow, the chest is what moves up and down. If you're breathing deeply, while you inhale, your belly should be moving out. And as you exhale, of course, your belly moves back in. The top hand should be staying relatively motionless. Your lower hand is the one that should be moving. If you breathe very shallow, that actually increases your anxiety levels. If you breathe deeper, that decreases anxiety levels. Of course, you also want to be exhaling for longer than you inhale because, again, inhaling increases sympathetic, exhaling increases parasympathetic response. You want to be inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth as if you're smelling a rose and then blowing out a candle. If you do this properly, it's been shown to decrease your heart rate, ideally, if your HRV is in good shape. So that's one reason why I think people get really scared about breath work, is that they're not doing it properly, and so it's actually making things worse. Something else is that for people who have a very obsessive compulsive nature to their anxiety, something like voluntary bodily processes like breathing or heart rate are insanely scary. It can be a really scary experience to be within your body, to focus attention on your internal bodily processes, because that can be an obsession in OCD. I'm forgetting how to breathe, or there's something wrong with my heart, or there's something wrong with my body inside of me, even when there's not. And so if you have a very obsessive piece to the anxiety, it can feel like you're focusing too much on something that's scary. I'm not going to get into how to cure this right now because that's a whole different topic. Could probably use its own video, but just know that it's not that breathing necessarily makes it worse. It could be the nature of the way that you're breathing or the nature of your type of anxiety. It could absolutely be something you can work through, although I'm not going to say that it helps 100% of people. I can't confidently say that there aren't people out there who breathing exercises genuinely don't help for. Then there are also ways to heal your nervous system through music, rhythm, and drama. So we're talking about things like participating in theater or plays, or joining an improv comedy class, or doing psychodrama therapy, singing in a chorus, playing in a band, doing a Zumba class, singing in your religious community. All these things actually stimulate the vagus nerve. Chanting, humming, singing. The reason why so many religious organizations take part in these, they're very soothing to our bodies. Dancing, kickboxing classes, any types of movement that people do in tandem can feel very powerful, both on an individual and a communal level. Then there are certain therapy modalities that tend to target the nervous system more specifically. So this is something like EMDR, which operates in a similar way to dreaming. When you're dreaming, your eyes are moving repetitively in circular motions, and they are processing things, consolidating memories, things of that sort. EMDR does the same thing. It sort of decreases your arousal levels while you're processing through traumatic memories. Hypnotherapy is also very helpful because the basic goal of hypnotherapy is to get you into a really slow brainwave state where you're basically in this deep meditation, almost trance-like state where you're impressionable and you can process things that consciously you wouldn't want to process, or even help retrain you on an unconscious level. So it can help even just for like deep meditation or a deep state of bodily relaxation, or to revisit traumatic memories, or just to heal your nervous system. Neurofeedback is very helpful for things like anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, seizures, and more. So this is focusing on specifically retraining your brain waves to be in a state that is more helpful to you. Basically, your brain at any given moment is in either faster or slower brainwave states. Some people tend to be stuck in really fast waves, like people who have experienced trauma and anxiety disorders. Others tend to be stuck in slower brain waves. It really kind of depends, but neurofeedback can help with that. Psychodrama or psychomotor therapy can help recreate and rewrite traumatic stories where you're actually moving your body or watching it be done in front of you, and that helps to release some of the emotions that you have around the trauma. Somatic therapy targets what is called the soma, the Greek word for body, through touch, through breath work. It improves grounding, interoception, and emotion regulation. So this is a really great go-to if you have physiological issues. Talk therapy is helpful, but it doesn't directly target the physiological system. It may sometimes implement things that sometimes help the physiological reactions we have to things, but overwhelmingly it's mostly just talking about things. It's not directly targeting the body. More of that top-down approach I was talking about. Other techniques you could use: meditation, which is just focusing on your breath, focusing on what's going on inside your body, observing your thoughts, just taking some time to rest your mind, grounding yourself, paying attention to the 5 senses around you in order to be more present in what's happening right now, and journaling. Gratitude journaling has actually been shown to increase the HRV, which again is a measure of your nervous system's flexibility. You can also try free writing or whatever journaling method you use. As you know, I use a ton of journaling methods. And lastly, in order to heal your nervous system, you need to get this outlook on life that it's safe again. You need to feel like the world isn't such a dangerous place, that you're surrounded with people who love you and care for you and don't want to hurt you. So this can look like interacting with people who feel safe and supportive, who build you up, who you're comfortable around. Distancing yourself from people who do not do that. Listening to songs or watching movies or writing your own songs or singing along to things that induce feelings of peace, joy, love, gratitude, inspiration, and so forth. Meditating while you feel those elevated emotions can help immensely. And just doing activities that make you feel in flow, whether it's writing, walking in nature, doing your job that you really love, anything that makes you feel like you're really present in the moment. That can be helpful, since we know that trauma and anxiety are so often focused on preventing future harm because of past harm that's been done. So, I know this was a little bit of a deep dive into how to heal the nervous system. I hope that it was helpful. Let me know which of these techniques you found helpful for yourself, or if there are things that I forgot. Don't forget to join the community, and I'll see you soon.